Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a few moments. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We'll just get started in a few moments. My name is Christiane Stamp. Looks like there's a lot of Christiane Stamps. I tried to make it easier for you guys by putting my link to join in the invite and the emails to you. So if you could just quickly go in to change your name, that would be awesome. On your video screen, it should show, if you hit the little ellipses, there'll be a rename button, and then we'll be able to just have a better idea of who's here and who's asking questions. And then that'll make it so it's not all Christiane Stamp asking questions. So thank everyone for joining. It's 4 o'clock, so I think we can go ahead and get started. We have our amazing special guests here to celebrate our Customer Experience Day webinar today. Liliana Petrova is going to be our moderator of the Petrova Experience. And our next slide here has our guests today that we'll hear from. We're going to try to aim for 45 minutes of content and then leave 15 minutes at the end to answer questions. So if you have questions that come up throughout this program, we'd ask you to please put them in the chat, and then that way we can make sure that we get back to people as best as possible. If there's things that we don't have time for, keep them in there and we will be sure to email you, which is why it's great if we have the correct name. So at this point, I think I will turn it over to Liliana to get us started.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, we're in the same room, still a startup here, guys. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. Some of you we know for many years, others we met recently, but the interest to customer experience and client experience has been something that I think we all share today. So without wasting any time on me, because that's not the day is about you guys, I'm going to start with our first question to our speakers. The slide will show who they are, and if you go to your viewing options and change it to a speaker view, you will be able to see the speaker who is speaking when we start this event. I will start with a pretty open-ended question so you can get a feel for the people in our panel today. So I will start with Melanie because she's the first person I see on my screen. And I will ask can you introduce yourself, where you work, what you do, and what a client experience means to you?
I'm going to stop sharing so that it's... Great. Thanks, Liliana, and hi, everyone. It's so great to see you all. Thanks for joining. So my name is Melanie Goldie. I'm the COO and CFO at Tomorrow Life Sciences, which is a company that provides a fully automated technology solution for the safeguarding and storage of eggs and embryos that will be used eventually in vitro fertilization. When customer experience is really important to us, and it's really important to me as a person. Actually, when I was 16, I took a leadership course run by the president of the local university, and it was about servant leadership, which is a philosophy that really puts the needs of others first and is aimed at helping people to develop and to perform as highly as possible. So I think about client experience very similarly. from that philosophical standpoint. It's a deep commitment to embrace challenges as opportunities to serve your clients. You know, I think through my life and my career, I've learned that showing up when it seems the hardest thing to do is actually the most important and the most meaningful time to show up for someone.
Thank you, and thank you for coming today. Ashlee, do you want to take the stage next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Ashlee Wright. I am the founder of New Beginning High School and CEO of Right on Time Educational Services. And, you know, customer service is interesting when you're talking about education, but really the only industry that's ever had our consumer just come to us, right? You know, we've never really had to have a customer-centric approach to education unless you were in higher ed. I mean, kids lived in zones, they automatically came to where you were. And so from that perspective, we've never really had to revolutionize our thought process as educators. We've never really had to think about what makes us think. And so charter has really, and private schools and the growth thereof have really pushed traditional educators to think outside the box and consider something called innovation. And so customer service for me is not about just being able to get a student to come in the door, but continue to keep them coming back. And so I love the model of Publix, which is where shopping is a pleasure, right? We want to make education a pleasure. It is a pleasurable experience where young people are getting up and saying, I'm excited to go in today. What is going to happen? What am I going to learn? And so I look at what has been so successful in the corporate space, and our goal is to bring this to education. So education and customer service are really coming together hand in hand in what we do to create those experiences for young people.
Thank you. Lori, do you want to take the stage?
Sure. I love Melanie with the service leadership, and Ashlee, innovation. I'm right there with you. I mean, that's kind of how we look at it. So hi, everyone. I'm Lori Rodriguez, Vice President, Executive Programs at Gartner. I'm not a Gartner analyst. I'm actually a customer experience practitioner within Gartner. So these are my own opinions and my own experiences. I lead innovation initiatives, so there's a connection there, Ashlee, for our products and services that are targeted at our senior-most leaders in technology. So that's your chief information officers, your chief technology officers, your CDOs, whether that's digital or data. And I've always been mission-driven in whatever I do. So, of course, I look at customer experience from the grand scale perspective. I see customer experience as the catalyst for change, the catalyst for innovation. It's key to innovation, and it's also just plain old problem solving, right? It's a way you can look at that and solve for that too. Whether that's break fix improvements, incremental innovation, business model transformation, or even solving some of the world's most difficult problems. If you think about it, our experiences make up our lives. So customer experience is really at the heart of everything we do, whether we realize it or not. And, you know, that's kind of, in a nutshell, why I'm so passionate about this topic.
Thank you. Rob, I'll leave you to finish the lineup. So Sam, can you go next and we can have Rob go last?
Oh, sure. You want me to go next? Sure.
Yeah.
Hi there. I'm Samantha. I go by Sam Borowski. I'm head of client success at Maven Clinic. For those that are not familiar with Maven, we're actually the first digital health clinic for women and families. Most of you, I'm sure, work for employers. And if you may or may not know, employers often have some type of maternity program that they offer to their employees when they're expecting. And Maven does just that because we actually believe that starting a family is complicated, definitely under these times, and employees need better solutions. So employers actually select Maven as a benefit to be provided to their employees. And so when we think about client success and what my team does, and our client in that regard is the HR benefits teams, we really are looking to, one, ensure that we're implementing the best programs for them, that they can then, you know, and for us, and the way that we look at what we do is that we are an extension of our brand at Maven. So each of us provide that authentic and human touch. And we really ensure that we do that from when the actual employer onboards our program all the way until renewal, and they actually, you know, renew their contract. And there's a lot of touch points in between there that are really important for us. So we're always ensuring that we're delighting them. The other customer, though, that I think is important to think about are the employees that we serve, because without them, we can't show the value of what we do. And I think that what makes Maven so special in the way that we think about employees, especially going through maternity, is that, you know, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is that, you know, there are so many different paths to parenthood. For those of you who have been parents, have friends and family, no pregnancy or postpartum, let's call it even children, are the same. And therefore our programs really have been, you know, have a programmatic approach, but really allow for the personalization, so that if you're going through egg freezing, fertility, surrogacy, and having a child, or even have children up through age 10, we have developed programs to just do that. So I would say in a nutshell, we really look at client services in ensuring that we're providing that personalized high touch. Look forward to sharing more soon. Thanks for having me.
Between you and Melanie, I think you've got us covered end-to-end women. Rob, do you want to take it home?
Sure, thanks, Liana. So my name is Rob Scateri. I'm the head of global support for Viagogo. Viagogo is a secondary ticket market, so like a StubHub or any of those, you know, SeatGeek, something like that. Viagogo is an international arm of the company. We also own StubHub, so StubHub is our domestic arm, and Viagogo is the international arm. So for me, my experience has been primarily in e-commerce. I've done a lot ranging from healthcare to banking, but most of my tenure has been in e-commerce. So to me, customer experience is, you know, it's summed up in one word, it's a differentiator in the e-commerce space. As the globe gets more commoditized and everything that we do becomes more commoditized, you know, you think about an Amazon, you know, why would you buy, you know, something from Amazon when you could go to the store up the street and buy the same thing, maybe even for a little less money? The reason is the experience. It's a customer experience. That's what makes it different. And that's that's in this environment now where we are with COVID-19, the differentiator is going to be the difference between companies that survive and companies that don't. Right now, we've probably leaped 5 to 10 years ahead of where we would be had it not been for COVID-19, with everything being delivered curbside pickup, you know, order ahead, the outdoor dining now that everybody's experiencing just to be able to go out and socialize. So as things become commoditized, as you can get things anywhere, and the products themselves become less of the driver, it's the experience that's going to keep companies surviving. So for me, that really is, you know, the meaning of customer experience. It's, you know, it's maximizing the quality of the customer contact to improve brand loyalty, but also to improve multi-brand experience.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, that is the reason why we're all here on this afternoon, because we're all passionate and believers in this. So thank you for those intros. Today's topic is customer experience in action. So I have to be true to the topic and the promise. And we need to make people muted. That's one thing that we probably need to keep doing. What I wanted to ask you all was if you don't mind sharing a few examples of how your companies are doing that. Literally, how are you actioning customer experience? We know a lot of people know about the theory of it, but the more tangible and tactical you can get in your answers, that would be better for us. To keep this easy, I'll just keep the lineup the way we started with the intros, so you guys know who's after who. So Melanie, if you don't mind kicking it off, thank you.
Yes, I would love to. So Tomorrow was founded only about 2 years ago. So we had the great fortune of thinking about our client experience with a blank sheet of paper and really building it from scratch. And we started mapping out what our client experience might look like, but we actually ended up taking a step back as a leadership team and saying to ourselves, we have to actually walk the walk. And that means whatever we define our client experience to be really should be written into our DNA. And at the very root, how we treat our clients should also be how we treat each other. So what we felt very strongly that whatever we show to the outside has to start from the inside. So with the help of Liliana and her team, we embarked on a 5-month exercise of defining our company's vision, our mission, and our core values. And we even took it a step further in defining what behaviors and how we could actually demonstrate these values on a day-to-day basis. And importantly, this was a collective and very large commitment by our executive team, and viewed as something that would be continuous and ongoing. But once we had that foundation, we were then able to actually have a much better perspective of how we wanted to really map out that client experience. And at Tomorrow, our client experience is not just limited to the client success team. It's baked into everything that we do. So as I mentioned, we work with fertility clinics to help with the storage of these precious specimens that will be used in IVF. But what we've done is we've actually hired embryologists onto our staff so that we can make a product by embryologists for embryologists. We intersperse those embryologists through various departments. One of them actually works on the technology team, helping to define our user experience to make sure that the person on the other end of that software interface really feels like we understand what they need. Our product team invests really heavily in usability studies, one of which is happening in a week from now, where we're inviting 20 embryologists to come and play with our toys and to give us feedback that actually gets worked into the next version of our product. Every employee, from our administrative assistant to our executives, begins their tenure at Tomorrow with a massive onboarding process. We integrate them into the business. We spend the first 2 weeks just teaching them about who we are. We teach them about who their colleagues are, and we really focus on learning, and hospitality training is part of that onboarding. We even have a hospitality manager, that is her title, on our team, whose job it is to anticipate the needs of our employees and to help ensure that the minute someone walks into our office or comes into contact with our brand, whether that's physical contact or virtual contact, that they really see all of us showing up together, united with those core values always at the forefront. And one of our values, just going back to my servant leadership comment earlier, is it's actually a Japanese word, but it captures the ethos of hospitality and service. And so it really is at the heart of everything that we do. And I say that because I really believe that we can only achieve our goals by getting into the heads of our customers, listening to them, and anticipating what they need and being proactive about that. So we don't just relegate it to one department here. We really action customer service into every department. And I think so far so good. So I would recommend that, but it really needs to be, taken sort of a step deeper and really resonate with, who you are as a brand and how you want to show up.
Thank you. It's time consuming too, so it is really a commitment. Thank you so much, Melanie. Ashlee?
So I think when we talk about what customer service really means to us and how we put that in action, it started back for us on March 13th. I mean, we really went into the thought process in March of like, the world's changed, right? The world's changed, and how are we going to make sure that we're ahead of the curve, not trying to figure it out once school starts, but let's take a proactive approach to now. Like, if this is the beginning of the school year, what are we going to do for our customers? And so we completely revamped our model. And so for us and the clients that we work for, it became a conversation about automating admissions. Like, right, because when you go to school, you're talking about, especially traditional ed, you're going in a building, you're filling out an application. It's like going to the doctor, right? And going from that transition of brick and mortar service to remote online admissions is a real mind shift, especially when you're talking about people's children. This is the most precious commodity you have. You want to make sure that you're meeting the people, you're engaging with the people, and that you're not just doing this automated kind of process where you become a number. And so we had to go through this whole training thing with our staff and our team about your voice, your tone. And so thanks again, kind of like Melanie, Liliana, her team came in and we had this whole conversation at the beginning of the year, like, your voice is all you have. that's your tool you're going to use over in this virtual world, whether it's that or it's through a Zoom call or a go-to meeting. But we really had to figure out what's the best platform to reach our customer. And then how do we make ourselves accessible to that parent where that parent feels comfortable bringing us the precious babies? And so that meant kind of becoming kind of a quasi-Rob, right? And creating call centers and having that customer service be really efficient, where the parent felt like, okay, this process isn't taking me that long. I can actually put my child into a school remotely. But then we had to have Zoom meetings. And so now, instead of me being able to hug that mother and secure her with my loving presence, I had to be able to really connect with mom remotely, and teaching our team how to do that. But not just the mother to get the child engaged, but get the child active and committed to going to school. And so how do you continue to perpetuate those relationships? And so social media, which was always something that was a part of kind of what we did as an educational system, became even bigger, where, you know, you started to actually have to utilize social media to be able to explain to parents what was going on in the school environment. We had to take pictures of the actual classrooms and be able to push those out to parents to be able to say the rooms have been set up and they are designed to be able to show you those levels of security when your child comes into the building. But we also, similar to what I've heard some of the other panelists say, had to let the employees know we cared about their safety too. And so that meant that in this whole employee and customer experience world, we had to make sure that they felt comfortable, making sure the children were comfortable. And so for that, in action from us was not just the logistics of the building, but the aesthetics of redesigning our website, making an online application that was efficient. And so putting the right resources together to really look at what we were doing and how to make it, as Rob said, being that differential to be different, to make sure that parents still felt secure and comfortable bringing us their children.
Thank you. Thank you, Ash. Lori?
It's really good stuff. At Gartner, we have a digital client experience team that's responsible for the digital assets that touch our clients. So the website, email, notifications, a bunch of other stuff y'all mentioned. We also have a product management teams and service experience teams, and all of them have responsibility for delivering against client needs. So you're starting to hear this theme, right? It's embedded in the entire organization. We look at hitting our business objectives by helping our clients meet their objectives. So for us, CX is absolutely embedded in how we go to market. And I want to talk about customers, because Ashlee, you brought up like moms, students, employees, right? And Melanie, you talked about employees too. So I'm going to expand kind of the word customer to 4 different types. Who you're selling to, that's, you know, your customer. And then in B2B, you also have to think about who your customers are selling to. So your customer's customer, that's the second one. Then your service organization and your other associates, what's their experience like? Because especially your frontline employees, they're going to be touching the customer, and you want to make sure that that goodness is transferred all the way there and back again. And the fourth one is kind of interesting, and we don't always talk about it, but it's going to get more important over time, and that's things, as in Internet of Things. More and more things are going to be consumers of our products, and we got to start thinking and being intentional about the experiences that we provide for both humans and non-human entities. So those are the 4 kinds of customers that we think about. And then where we start from the actioning piece is always from the business problem we're trying to solve. So again, Melanie, that blank slate that you had put together, you know, love that. And then we use customer experience to drive results. So to me in particular, I see customer experience as the how, not necessarily the what. And, you know, like Melanie, we believe it's the DNA of the organization, right? So if you picture in your head, and I know I'm dipping into theory here, but I think it helps with bringing some of the action to life. Picture the double helix of DNA. You've got one strand of that helix as the client need, and you've got the other strand of that helix as the business need. And your touch points are the connections between the two. And I'll take that analogy one step further. Each twist of that double helix is a point on the customer journey encapsulated. So it's continuous, but it is evolving at the same time. And I know that was a lot of theory, but I think that can kind of help bring it to life maybe. So if we don't think about customer experience a little differently, we will end up being perhaps, from the business objective side, you can end up being the 70% of customer experience projects that fail. So start with the business objective and then use it through that way. So I'll give you an example now, so some action. We're maniacally focused on retaining our clients by helping them achieve their business goals. So we did extensive quantitative and qualitative analysis to segment our EXP clients based on the jobs that they hired us to do to help them achieve their goals. That's Clayton Christensen's Jobs to Be Done work. So if you don't know about that, you can just Google that, Jobs to Be Done. And we found that our clients fell into sort of 4 segments. And then within one of those segments, we found that our clients were very bifurcated in their level of engagement with us. Half were very engaged and very happy clients, and the other half were not so engaged, and needless to say, that half had very poor retention. So we were very intentional in looking at not only retention, but where could we get the best business impact for the limited resources everybody has. So we dug deeper into the needs of that particular segment to identify any patterns that we could address to change their behavior, to change their happiness level. And we did find some very specific common needs for that population. So now we had 1, the business need to retain clients, and 2, a very specific unmet client need that we could go after. So that's just one example of how you can kind of action client experience to address very intentionally business objectives.
Thank you, Sam.
Sure. So, I'll take a little bit of a different angle on this because I think when our client success team at Maven and as a company, we've been around for 4 years. So we're actually at an interesting time because just to talk about even number of employees, we're about 150 employees, and I was number 1, at least from the client success side. So when you think about where we've been and kind of just how we even built client success to then, to scale as we grew an amazing product that we have, and Lori said it well, because when we think about our customer, it's the B2B angle and then the B2C. And so from a B2B perspective, for one, we always have to think about what did our friendly sales folks, sell upstream, because they sell the dream and we live the reality. So we want to make sure that that comes through. And when you do that, we really had to ask ourselves if the journey of the customer experience, of the client experience, is to ultimately get to the goal of the experience that we need to give to their employees, the let's call it the B2C model, then we really have to ensure that whatever journey we put forward is going to trickle down to that effect. And for us, the goal is to get employees to sign up for our programs. So our journey had to include having a very robust onboarding program, or onboarding, I should say, part of the journey, where we were setting up so that everyone understood what we did, had trainings, the overview that we embedded from a people process, perspective. And then we also, ensured we had the right communications and we were fully integrated with those companies. So I would say that marketing actually became a very, very important piece to what we did, as well as data analytics, so that we really could work cross-functionally to pull that through. Because without that, and without having our employees, that are the consumer, be a part of our program, we wouldn't be successful at the client level. And then identifying what are those Maven moments, and we're even continuing to change those even through COVID, because our lives have changed so much. But what are we call the Maven client moments where we can celebrate the partnership? So whether it be what we call QBRs, which are quarterly business reviews, where we actually showcase, the impact that we've made with their population. And usually a mid-year or an end of year are times to celebrate those things. But even milestones that you have within the company. So for us, or that we have within the product. So like for us, obviously we're in the maternity field. Mother's Day is a really great place to celebrate, things that are parent related. This month, unfortunately, happens to be miscarriage and loss. And so this is a moment where we are ensuring that we're thought leaders and we're showcasing what you can do. So I think it's important to, almost establish what are the right touch points from a journey, but then what is the flavor of that based on the program and the value and offering that you bring. And measure those and measure that they are successful. And I think, Lori, you mentioned this as well. For us, our pillars of success are: one, renewals and churn. So are people going to actually renew their contracts with us? It's what we call activation. So ensuring that we have people that are actually using, call it utilization or engagement. Mm-hmm. Third is upselling, because our team actually is in charge with a sales component of getting, increasing the revenue, and that could be adding more products on. And then the fourth is advocacy, which is the most important. So taking those clients of yours that are the, that are the fans, the champions of your product, and ensuring that they are helping you get the word out there. And whether that be through references, logos, or any types of case studies, those are considered a win. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and before we go, Rob, the advocacy is the one that I'm so passionate about, and I feel like not often is, invested in. So, and that's the one that gives you the long run and the long game. It's really good if you have it. Thank you so much, Rob.
Well, for us, customer experience is the experience. We don't sell hard goods. We're not selling clothes. We're not selling anything like that. We sell a ticket to an event. So the experience is what we sell. So for us, the customer experience is the paramount part of our organization. Communication is key. The seamless nature of the transaction is key. Making it easy, fast, efficient. Bringing something to people that they may not otherwise have been able to do. I'm sure everyone on this call has tried to buy a ticket to some live event, a concert, play. It's just the way that the tickets get distributed now. There's not many left for the general public once they go on sale. It's very hard to get them. So what we're doing is we're giving people the opportunity to buy something, an experience that they may not have otherwise been able to buy. So for us, our paramount is to make sure that customer, that buyer of ours, and for us, it's actually a marketplace. It's more of a marketplace than anything else. So we don't have the tickets. We're bringing together a seller and a buyer. So the seller is our customer, and so is the buyer. So we need to make sure that what the seller is selling is valid, and we'll get that buyer into the event. And then we need to make sure that the buyer is able to get what they bought in time for the event, and it will get them in. So we balance a lot of that marketplace aspect between the buyer and the seller. Everything we do needs to be transparent to the buyer. Anything that happens with our customers on that side needs to be transparent. There's a lot of work that goes in that middle piece to ensure that everything is happening as it should. But the buyer should not have to worry about any of that. They should be able to go to the show that they bought a ticket for, and that's it. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes they can't get in for whatever reason. So what we do is, which is key, is we offer a guarantee. If for whatever reason they get to the event and they can't get in, we do a number of different things. Worst case is we refund the money back to the buyer. It's not a great experience because their experience was they wanted to go see the show. So getting the money back is not what they want, but that's our absolute last resort. What we will do, and what we've done in the past though, is we will go into our ticket inventory that's still online. We'll purchase tickets ourselves and then get them to the buyer electronically at the gate so they can get into the event. Oftentimes when we're buying tickets like that, they're better tickets than what they had purchased themselves, because it's the more expensive tickets that are usually still left for the event as the event is happening. We will, if the event is local to any one of our offices, we have in the past taken physical paper tickets, driven to the event, and given it to the buyer to get into the event. So we will do whatever is necessary and whatever is possible to get that person to get into the event that they were looking forward to. But as I said, last case, last resort, we'll refund the money. So at least they're not out that as a bad customer experience if they just get the money back. What we need to do is repeat customers. And I think, Sam, you had mentioned that. Our business, too, is a repeat customer. We want to make sure that the experience is positive. When they got there, they were able to get in. We can't control the show, obviously, and whether they have a good time or not. And most people are aware of that and don't hold us accountable if they didn't have fun. But if they can't get in, it's on us. So our goal is to make sure they get in and they can do what they want to do. So for us, when I said before that customer experience is the differentiator, for us, the customer experience is not only just a differentiator, it is everything, because there is no physical goods at the end of this transaction that the person will have and remind them of the transaction. It's just a memory of that event.
Thank you. One thing that I loved about our panel today is the diversity of the businesses we have. And kind of it was very intentional, this eclectic group of people we collected, because we do want to drive home that customer experience is your business. And what was said already is that, like, it's not about what you do, it's how you do it, which means it applies to any business. We'll go next with Lori, because I think she has somewhat of an emergency, and life throws us curves all the time. But I do want to have one last question with her before she needs to run to attend to life. Lori, I think you're such a great storyteller, and one of the things that we are finding in our practice is that the B2B world is getting more and more interested in customer experience and client experience. And like Samantha was saying, it is the connections are longer and it's a little more complex than a straight B2C world. So do you mind just walking us through that journey, and what do you, in your opinion, takes to actionably do client experience in an excellent way?
Yeah, thanks. And I think the path, I'll try to pull out points that may have a B2B specific to it, but I think a lot of this transfers to anything. So I think the path to a great client experience begins with how you view it. So as we said earlier, it's kind of the DNA of the organization. So when I talk about it, I'll talk about it in that context, how you operate. And obviously you start with the business problem you're trying to solve, and you define what good looks like if you solved it, right? So I'm going to give you a very high level, right? Problem to solve, what it looks like if you solve it for yourself and your customers and your customers' customers, if you're in B2B, and then you work backwards from there. So there's 4 basic steps to deliver this seamless, consistent, great customer experience to deliver those results. One is the discovery process. The second is design. The third is development. And the fourth kind of underpins everything, and it's measurement. And then the follow-on of intentional business as usual. So once you've launched something, how are you continuing to innovate that and support that? So I'm going to go through the Spark Notes version. I'm going to spend a little more time in discovery because I think that's foundational to everything. And a lot of people start right into development and you run into problems. And that's where a lot of product failures happen because you don't do the upfront work in discovery. So I'm going to spend a little more time there. So in the discovery phase, use design thinking methodologies. You can Google that. There's a whole bunch of things out there, but this is foundational. So within the context of your business problem, define your market and really get to know that customer. I mean, you can do shadowing. There's a whole bunch of techniques that you could do to figure that out. I mentioned jobs to be done earlier. And then you map the current process for getting to whatever your product is that you put in the market. What is it it's trying to achieve for them? And what are they doing today? Whether that's using your product or whether it's not using your product, how are they getting to that outcome with whatever they're using today? And then along that journey, you look for the pain. Where are the challenges? Where does it hurt? Because that's your real opportunity there. So what happens at the end of this step? You'll have a prioritized set of personas segmented by what each cluster is trying to achieve. You'll have defined the high-level ROI for both your business and for that customer. You'll have some journey maps at a high level, how you get to that end result, and where your opportunities are to solve pain in that process. And this whole process is iterative. Don't be scared, just start. Test early, fail often, and get better as you go. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Don't be afraid to just get going and you'll figure it out. You don't have to know it all up front. Just get going and you'll learn as you go. We all do, right? So let me give you an example that most of us can relate to. So at one of Gartner's leadership conferences, the Netflix founder, Mark Randolph, said his big one thing for success, big slide reveal, find the pain. That's all it said, find the pain. And he used the example of, for himself, he wanted to change the paint color in one of the rooms in his house. So picture in your head, you're opening that paint can, you're pouring the paint in the tray, you're dipping the roller or brush into the paint, you're putting the lid back on. If you're like me, you stomped on it and paint went everywhere. You're cleaning up the tray, the mess, the whole thing. That one small piece of that painting process holds a lot of pain. So if I were a manufacturer of paint, you could probably differentiate yourself, to Rob's point, right? Differentiate yourself by solving some or all of those pain points just in the can itself. Regardless of what you did with the paint, just fixing that pain, you could probably solve that. And then you measure it, right? You can measure it in time saved, decrease in wasted paint, customer satisfaction, and then the business objectives of, repeat purchase and then advocacy, to your point, Liliana and Samantha, right? Advocacy. You can take that same process to professional services, B2B, any industry. What objective is a client trying to accomplish? Where is the pain in that process? And what's the result for you and your customer if you eliminate that pain? So that's the discovery process. And I'll go very quickly through the other steps. So the second step is design. I like to use lean product methodologies. I won't go into detail what those are, but you can Google lean product and you'll get a whole bunch of stuff out there. Lots of templates, especially if you look up lean product playbook, it's great. So at the end of this design step, you'll have refined your journey maps for a short list of prioritized opportunities. You'll have created and tested mock-ups with actionable, love that word, actionable user stories, and you'll have an awesome set of technical requirements that are founded in what the client or customer is trying to achieve. So that's the second step, design. The third step is development, agile. And a lot of people jump into agile, and they go right there without doing the first two, and that's where it kind of falls apart. You have to have, but once you've done the first two, you've got those great requirements. Now it's a disciplined, iterative execution centered around the journey maps, the user stories, and the technical requirements in the first two steps. And you continue to bring into the customers into this. Again, testing early, fail fast. Right? It's cheaper to fail earlier than later. And your artifacts in this process will get increasingly more detailed as you go through those iterative cycles towards launch. And then the fourth step is measurement. And this, again, underpins all the steps along the way. And you have to be very, very intentional about what and how you measure. Every measure that you have, every metric is driving behaviors or repelling behaviors. And too often the behaviors that our metrics are driving are not the ones we intended. So you might be creating blockers to hitting your goals, or the customer using your product. You might be causing other problems in other parts of your business because you haven't embedded it into the DNA. You've created a siloed product or process or service, and it doesn't quite fit with the rest of the experience for the client. Or sometimes, especially in, say, financial services, it might lead to some potentially unethical behavior. So you have to be very intentional about what you measure. So to wrap that up, 4 steps: discovery, know your customer and what they're trying to achieve, find the pain along the way. Design, create great, actionable, prioritized user stories and journey maps and requirements. And development, follow a disciplined, iterative execution process. And then the fourth one is measure and intentional business as usual. Measure well, quantitative analysis as well as qualitative analysis, and continually improve. So that's the Spark Notes version of the path to great customer experience and business results. So hope that was happy. And I'm so sorry to leave you all early, but I have to jump.
Okay. In interest of time, guys, we are getting a lot of questions, so I'm just going to go straight to audience questions. I will, in order to get through all the questions, I'll just allocate the questions to the people I think are going to be most kind of, ready to, answer those questions. So the first one we have good luck, Lori. The first question we have is, what are the qualities or skill sets that you're looking for when you're hiring a CSR manager? And what would make you hire a CSR manager with potential to manage but no experience in management? And I'll give this to Melanie because of this kind of the startup-y area of that. But Sam, Samantha, if you want to also cover that later. Thank you. Melanie, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think there's two things there. Is what first, what you're looking for in a CSR manager, what kind of profile of person. I think so let me caveat this by saying I think that the type of person that you'd want to hire has to match up with the type of values that your company has, which are specific to your company. So just put that out there first. For us, it's about, all the things I mentioned: hospitality, service orientation, agility, curiosity, which is actually an interesting one when it comes to client customer service, because you want to know, well, what is the question behind the question that the client is asking you, right? Let me try to dig deeper and figure out what they're really trying to say. And I'm curious about this. Tell me more about it. So I think that's really one important one for us. We operate in a space that is life sciences. We're dealing with innovation and technology. There are, some pretty hardcore specifications around what we sell. So there's a certain level of knowledge that can be taught, but there needs to be a certain level of knowledge in terms of what the CSRs are able to speak in real time when they're talking to that client and speak credibly about. So that's incredibly important to us. And I think, somebody, generally speaking, who are incredibly empathetic, right? Really trying to understand, again, what that customer is really looking for. Another skill I think that is very interesting for this type of role is to be able to kind of synthesize a lot of information and really boil it down to what really matters most. If somebody's calling you, and in my scenario, if it's an emergency, if something's wrong with the machine, if they can't retrieve an embryo, that's an emergency. They may be flustered on the phone. They may be upset. They may be angry. They may be saying a lot of things. And I think it's up to our CSR managers to really sit back and say, with optimism, okay, what is this person really trying to say? How do I synthesize that information and really cull down what the problem is, and then be action-oriented in how to resolve that? So, I think on the other piece of your question, which is potential to manage a team, I think that you need, for this type of department, having really skilled individuals is actually a great thing, right? For that one-on-one communication. And then having a leader who manages that team is really important. But it may not be as important for your individual CSRs to have management experience. But it's really important to have a team leader that is a people leader, because a lot of this is inspirational, it's motivational, and I think that's important for the leader.
Thank you. Sam, do you mind, because we're getting more questions. I'll just go to the next question for you. So the Lise is asking if anyone has the analysis on which specific experiences throughout the customer journey impact overall perception of the brand the most. And it seems like you have a lot of data on your hands, and I was wondering if you can maybe, if you have any insight into that.
Sure. So I think you have to ask yourselves what define impact for that customer, because that's going to look different for everyone. And so if I think about, just to give you the example of Maven, it's why did they choose us in the first place? And for some it's clinical outcomes, it's business outcomes. And so their value and how they see the program needs to be felt through that. And so it's interesting. So we just ran an NPS survey. If you're familiar with that, it's, surveying, how likely your customer is to refer you to others, which is a very strong telling of how they feel about your service and your company and what have you. And we had a score of 91, which from a benchmark perspective is like unreal. And it's pretty amazing. And we're proud of that. And when we look under the hood to see why, the two things that bubbled up for that were that our product is actually delivering on its promise, that they're hearing the satisfaction, not only just from their employees, but also from the results that we share, the data that we share. And then the second being the service that we provide. They described white glove. They just, they described, quick action, empathy, everything actually that Melanie just mentioned is what they were, look for, and consultative and what have you is what they felt from the rep. So I think that it's not I can't give a single answer. I really think you have to do the discovery work of asking yourself, what does impact look like for your customer? What was sold? And how are you providing that in the journey? Because that will answer your question. It's not just one thing. It's not one silver bullet, for everyone. It really depends on what your product provides and what the value is.
Thank you. Rob, have you ever done something like this? I mean, this is a pretty great question, actually. I love this question because it can help with budgets, right? So,
or is hiring up the customer service team, you mean?
Yeah. Have you ever used customer service data? Because you have a lot of data on your side, not necessarily, just in this job, but in general. Have you listened to customer service data to get where the pain is and how what should be invested in? Or
Sure. So one of the things that that I found over time is the best customer service agents, best customer representatives that are speaking to the customers directly, our frontline folks. Hire a waiter, hire a waitress. Those are the best ones. Those are the ones who work for their money every night. Yeah. They have to make the person at the table happy. If they don't make as much money. So if you happen to be out to dinner one night and you come across a really good waiter or waitress, ask them if they're interested in working in your call center. I found that those people are usually the best agents because they're used to it. They know how to do it. I think Lori had said it earlier. She said it's cheaper to fail early than it is to fail late. She's absolutely right, and it goes with a saying that a prior life, a colleague of mine used to say all the time. There's never time to do it right, but there's always time to do it over. So when you're looking at setting up the organization, if it takes you a little bit longer to get it right, in the long run, it'll be worth it than trying to do it over. Because culturally, if you do it wrong, once you have that culture ingrained, now you're not just trying to fix something, you're trying to change a culture. And changing a culture is very, very difficult, extremely difficult. So, that would be the advice. If you're going to set up a center, that would really be the advice that I would give is take your time, make the right hires, make sure the people you're hiring are the right people. If it takes you a little bit longer, so be it. Because when you come out the back end of that, you'll be in a better place for it than trying to fix it. And someone had asked if there were college courses. How can we prep folks in college for these types of, and in school for these types of careers? The U.S. doesn't look at these types of careers as very glamorous. People who go into the call centers use it as a stepping stone to do something else. They don't look at it like a career. It's very different outside the U.S. It's a very high-profile job, and someone who is helping a customer is viewed very highly in cultures outside the U.S. So there are actually university degrees in the Philippines, in India. There are university degrees for customer service, for call centers, that people will graduate with a bachelor's degree in that field and then go into that with the intention of a career. I think in the US, we don't have that. And that's something that, we need to start to look at a little more closely in terms of how important that function is. What makes a company a great company? It's how you fix something. Everybody makes mistakes. Every company messes up. Nobody is perfect. What's going to create brand loyalty and what's going to keep folks coming back to your company is how you handled that mistake. What did you do? How did you fix it? Did you fix it? Did you ignore them? I read an article just today, actually, the title of the article, which is what caught my eye, is "Returns are key." The key to success is returns, is actually what it says. Key to success is returns. And I didn't understand what it was, so I read it. And what they were talking about is returning products. How easy is it for a consumer to return a product that they either don't want or didn't meet their expectation? How easy is it to exchange a product? Because if it's not, they're not going to come back and shop with you again.
It's so funny. We actually had a prospect that had a huge issue with this, and they actually it was cheaper for them for the damaged product to stay with the consumer than to do a return. And I never knew that about retail, that returns are such pain that they literally say, keep the broken one, we'll send you a new one.
That's what we used to do when I was with one of the flowers prior to this. If someone was unhappy with something we sent, we never made them try to return it. We told them to keep it, throw it away, do whatever you want to do. We'll get you out another one. And we just sent them a new one.
Thank you, Rob. I want to give Ashlee the time, because there was a question that's kind of in the field, in the role play here, that I want to get to, and we don't have that much time. The question, Ashlee, was how do you design, and I'm trying to get to that scroll because it's kind of hard, because Allison's question was taken care of. The leads.
I have it, Liliana.
You mind? Yeah.
Sure. It's how would you design and implement an effective customer experience for students at a university? And what are the major elements of such a plan?
That's great. A great question. What we've done with our system is we actually bring all of our staff in for a summer paid training. And we require educators to go through a week of customer service training. And a part of it is cold calls. They have to randomly call homes and say, hi, want to enroll your child? and that's, a really novel, thing in education. But on top of that is home visits. So what we've really found is that the practice, right, the actual having to do and be involved, because you get thrown all of these things and you don't know how to respond as a person who's never been that waitress, as a person who's never worked in that customer-centric or centered role. And so what we've really done is created courses, and the key elements of that really include a practicum type process where they have to actually have those experiences and be able to be given feedback and coached on them. We even have set up within our phone system where we can listen in on the calls that teachers are having with students, because now they're working remotely, and give them feedback in their ear, as you would in the call center, on how to coach the student through that challenge that they may be having. And so just bringing some of those very corporate things that I hear all of you guys talking about that are part of your industry, have been for some time, into education is really a new concept. And so a part of what I think needs to be in that curriculum is not just the things that were mentioned earlier by Rob and some of the other panelists, but giving our young people an opportunity to practice the information that they're learning in these institutions is key.
Thank you. Well, we have 3 minutes, which means Melanie was asking about 30 seconds. We have 45 seconds each to close the day. Samantha, why don't you start maybe? Just kind of any final remarks and anything you want to leave our audience with that you want to share with us.
Sure. No, I guess I would just say thank you for everyone's time today. I think that this is a field that is only getting stronger. I think for me, I started out in the world of sales and account management. And for me, this client success, and we say customer success, there's all these different words to describe what we do, and we all have different flavors of it. I think it's a really exciting field that's only going to get stronger. And, I'm just excited to be a part of it. And if anyone has any questions about specifically with healthcare startup, I'm happy to answer. And my contact information is included. So I thank you all for the opportunity. It was nice to meet people that were on the panel today. Thank you.
Melanie?
Yeah, again, thank you all so much for joining, and to my other panelists. I learned a lot as well today, so I felt it was awesome time together. And if anybody wants to reach out, please feel free to do so. I just wanted to leave you with one thought, which is a bit philosophical, but I think when it comes to building a great experience, it really is about relationships, and it really is about trust. And I'm reminded of something called Maslow's Big Five, which is essentially people want to belong, they want to be understood, they want to have control, they want to be appreciated, and they want to be their best selves. And if you can think about those fundamentals as you map out your own client journey in your company and tailor it with always those just fundamental ideas at the forefront, I think you can really design a client experience program that just hits home at the human level. So thank you all again. I really appreciate being here.
Rob?
Just to echo Melanie, thank you for everyone for attending today and for participating. Some of the comments were very insightful, great, I appreciate that. I guess from my perspective, what Melanie said is absolutely right. And also, just don't be afraid to start something like this. A lot of people will shy away from this because there's not a lot of, it's not a lot of glamour. The folks who are dealing with customers day in and day out are usually not the ones who are getting the kudos. So if you're in a position to start, don't shy away. If you're a leader in that role and you have folks that are working for you that are doing that, they need to know that you appreciate what they do every day. There's nothing more valuable than them knowing that you appreciate their efforts, you appreciate them coming in. Everybody's getting paid to come in, that's why they call it work. But it doesn't hurt to say thank you every now and then. And it goes a long way, and it helps to develop the relationship. It helps to develop the trust and develop your new leaders. Always be trying to put yourself out of a job is my motto. Always be trying to find a way to put yourself out of a job so you don't need the customer service reps, don't need to be there because the business runs so well that they don't need you anymore.
Thank you. Ashlee, take it away.
Thank you to everybody. I learned so much. I just want to call all the other panelists and say, can you teach me this? Can I learn this from you? But, really for me, it really boils down to choice and remembering that customers choose you. They have the choice. And the end of the day, you want the choice to be your product, your service, your school, your nursery, your daycare center, whatever that is. You want you to be not the second choice, but the number one choice. And so putting yourself in that customer's shoes every day, coming in, thinking about the service you're delivering, if you were on the receiving end of that, how and what would make you choose you?
Thank you. What a great ending. Have a fabulous day, everyone. And thank you for giving us your time. The gift of time is the biggest gift.
Thank you, everyone. Here's everyone's contact information as well. And I'll email this around in addition tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.